Well, hello. It's great to be back. I was blessed to be able to spend my hibernation time down in Florida. I'm excited about a new season, starting a new season of videos. I've got a lot of projects I want to do, a lot of ideas that I have. So I'm going to jump right into it. Okay, today, continuing on the theme that I have in these videos of learning how to make and to do things and use the gifts of craftsmanship and things that God has given us. Today, we're going to go to the good state of Tennessee, where my son lives, and go in his shop, and he's going to talk about how his journey through the art of leather making, something I haven't gotten into, something that he does as a hobby, not his full-time job, obviously, but just like me, likes to make things, etc. So we're going to look into that. We talked about this before. Every good gift and every perfect gift comes from God. The Bible says, from the Father of all lights, from above. Okay, it comes to us, and it's a gift from Him. Okay, I talked about this in previous videos. Doesn't matter what the gift may be. It may be in athletics or academics, art, music, science, craftsmanship of any kind. Gifts. It's been given to every man. We talked about that scripture, every man and woman, okay, has been given these gifts. You say you don't have one, it's not true, because there's something you're good at, okay? Now, these gifts were given for us to enjoy and for God to enjoy. Because I'm going to get into the story here of when the children of Israel were in the wilderness, okay? And they were released by Pharaoh. God told Moses to say to Pharaoh, "Let my people go, that they may come worship me in the wilderness." Okay, so in the wilderness, they had to build a tabernacle. They had to build a church, so to speak. Okay, they couldn't just go down to Lowe's and Home Depot and buy the lumber and supplies. There was no DeWalt or Rigid or Makita tools to use. There wasn't even hand tools. They had to make the very tools that they use had to be made by hand. How did they learn these skills and wisdom? If you look at what they've made, and you'll see in the graphic there of the Ark of the Covenant, which is one that was built with God had certain specific directions how to make them, how to build it. There were no blueprints. He showed to Moses. It was all verbal. No blueprints, no schematics, no designs, no 3D imaging on the computer. Okay, no CNC routers, no laser engravers, no drill presses or lathes, etc. I can go on and on. But you get the point that they made all these things by hand, and they were awesome. Awesome to look at. The Ark of the Covenant had to be overlaid with gold, and it was just amazing. Okay, so God had to supernaturally impart His wisdom and ability into specific people that He mentioned, okay, that He chose. And we're going to look at that. So in Exodus chapter 31, starting with verse 1, said, "The Lord spake unto Moses, saying, See, I have called by name Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah. And I've filled him with the Spirit of God. And behold, I've given him Aholiab, the son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan, in the hearts of all that are wise-hearted. I've put wisdom, that they may make all that I have commanded thee." So we could see there that God supernaturally imparted that wisdom and ability for them to be able to understand, to conceive, to craft these different things that were required, that He required of them, how to do it specifically. And we see that throughout all the Old Testament. We see that throughout the ages, that those gifts of being able to work and build things with their hands were imparted by God. Now let's go to my son's shop in Tennessee and take it from there. From my videos you've seen, I get into a lot of things. But one thing I've never gotten into was leather making. And so my son has gotten into that, besides making of the knives, which we'll talk about a little bit, is the leathercraft. And apart from, I can't think of anything that could be quite as old as making things out of leather, like boots and shoes, and still the best things today. Baseball gloves, saddles, there's a variety of things that are made out of leather. But it's a process, it's a skill, it's an art, and it's a craft. So Tom, how did you first get interested in doing this type of thing?
I guess it was sort of along with the knife stuff, right? It's like you make a knife, or you have a knife, either the knife has like a lousy sheath, or maybe nylon, or maybe cheap plastic, or you have a knife with no sheath, and you got to put it in something, right? You got to be able to have something to put it in so you don't cut yourself when you're carrying it around. So that was sort of the very simplest way for me to get into it, and it wasn't too intimidating, right? You cut out a piece of leather, you sew it together, and there you go. You have a sheath. But it turned out to be a little more complicated than that. Turns out sewing is one of the things that takes up a lot of the time. But yeah, I got into it for practical reasons, right? It's like if you have a knife, you might not even be able to buy a sheath for it. And when I was a kid, I didn't have any money, right? So there was even if there was a sheath available, I couldn't have bought it. But it's also utilitarian in that you can make anything that you can think up, right? Anything that you can think up and manage to put together, you can make. So yeah, that was really it.
You can see in the video of different things that you're seeing right now. That's a series of all these sheaths that he's made for the knives, but he also made, as you're going to see, like all you good husbands out there, he made a purse for his wife. Okay, I mean that's over the top for me. So that's the markings of a good husband. But anyway, so what's the process?
Sure. Yeah. Well, so the first thing you do is, the first thing you have is an idea, and the next thing you have after an idea is the choice to just do it, right? When I was a kid and I didn't know how to do any of it, a lot of guys get to the stage where they want to get into a hobby, but then they never do. And they might go years really wanting to get into the hobby, and for some hobbies, the barrier to entry is cost, right? You need a bunch of tools or you need a bunch of material. For leather, though, it's pretty cheap, right? You can get a full hide for $50-$60, and you can make a ton of things out of it. And, it's just that choice to just do it, right? To just start doing it. After you have your idea, you decide you're actually going to do it, you start with a pattern. And, I mean, this pattern is just a piece of paper that I drew and cut out of the instruction manual for my buddy here, right? So you don't need anything fancy, a pair of scissors and a pencil. And then, once you have your pattern, you fold it up, you mark out where you're going to sew, and you see if it's the right size, right? If it's not, maybe you scrap it, you try again. And that's why you use patterns, is if you do that in leather, you're going to use up all your leather pretty quick. Yeah, so once you have your pattern and you know where you're going to sew, where you're going to put rivets, you get a piece of hide and you cut it out. And at that point, you're sort of halfway done in terms of the actual construction. A real thick piece of edge tan like this, it's got some stiffness to it. You're not going to be able to take this sewing needle and just punch it through, right? And even if you could, your stitches are going to be all uneven. If you have a little bit thinner piece of edge tan like this, maybe you could do that, but still you're going to want to set your holes prior to working. And then there's also chrome tan, right? So you see how much floppier this is than a stiff piece of edge tan. This is still, this is good leather. This is a more modern tanning method than the veg tan. And you can get some interesting properties in these chrome tanned leathers. But generally, when I'm making stuff, I make it out of veg tan. One reason for that is you can do what's called wet forming it. So this is a piece of. I'll pull this up. So this is just a piece of relatively thin veg tan that I've wet formed into the shape for a fire steel. And you can even you can see how nicely that locks in there, right? I'm barely even squeezing on that. So you can sort of mold shapes, and then when they dry, they hold that shape. So anyway, for stitching, what I've used for years is just these chisels. I think I got these off of Amazon for maybe, $20 for the pack. Doing it again, I'd probably get a little bit nicer ones. These are okay, but as they start to get dull, you really have to drive them through the leather. So one thing I do a lot now is I'll just take my punch and I will mark out, the holes, and that perfectly sets the distance for where I'm going to punch. This tool gives you a nice even stitch line uniform to the edge of your leather. This is a beveling tool. This just takes that sort of sharp edge off the leather there and gives you more of a rounded edge. This is a skiving tool, so you see how thick that is, and you pull this tool across it. This razor's a little dull right now, but you can change the thickness so that if you need this section to bend, you can get it to bend. Pretty self-explanatory. I made this knife for the purpose of cutting through leather. That's all it is, right? I sharpen it primarily just by stropping it, and that's about it. So I mean, if you're just starting out, it's like, what do you absolutely need? Well, you're gonna need something like these chisels, just so you can mark where your holes go. And if all you're doing with these is marking holes, you don't need fancy ones, right? Probably $20 you can get a set of these. Something to actually punch the holes, and then something to sew, and a knife to cut with. Most of the rest of this is just nice to have, right? It makes your work look a little bit better, but doesn't really make it any more functional. A set of tools like this, maybe like $30 for setting your different rivets. And when you're just starting out with tools, most of the time you can just get what's cheap, right? You use it a few times, maybe you have issues with it and you get a nicer one. But it's very, very easy to just start out with whatever's cheap. I mean, this could just be a razor blade, right, or an X-Acto knife. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. The one place that I would spend money on a decent set is these punches, because if they get dull, you'll be smacking it with a hammer and it'll just never cut through. As far as the leather, I get it at a local Tandy leather, and I get the second quality hides on sale, and they were great, right? I have no problems with them, and that's really it. As far as needles, I would also get good needles, because it's a real pain when you break them, and sometimes you're forcing them through quite a few pieces of leather, and they will snap. Here's an example of just tanned natural veg tan, right? It starts out about that color. It'll tan sort of this honey color. And I think this is a nice finish. This will also age. So this will eventually turn a relatively dark brown as it gets sunlight and oils from your hands and stuff on it. And then these are darker finishes. I think I can't remember if this is, I'm so colorblind I can't tell, but this might just be one less coat of the mahogany color than this one. Does this have some red in it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this was just maybe 2 applications of the dye, and then this is maybe 3 or 4 applications of that same dye. The other thing, when you're finishing, is burnishing your edges. So I always encourage people to round over and burnish your edges. Just gives it a little more polished look. And then here's a totally black sheath, along with a pretty cool ebony knife here. A neat feature on this sheath is you can put your fire steel in. It holds in pretty well, and then I just have a piece of shock cord there, so that it's really not coming out.
Did you make that knife too?
Yeah, I made this knife too.
We won't even get into that, but he's a good knife maker. The Rocky Mountain Knife Works is right here in Knoxville area.
Smoky Mountain.
Smoky Mountain, okay. That's right. Big difference. Sorry
Yeah.
about that. Well, thanks, Tom. Saw there, and you heard from Tom, how he got into that. He said, if you remember what he said, just start doing it. Just start the desire that you have, particularly with leather making, doesn't take a lot of expense. Really simple tools, cheap. It doesn't cost a lot to get into. But, just do it. Like Nike always said, just do it. In this day and age of computer technology, and I taught it, I was a shop teacher, everything from all the basic shops all the way to robotics and computer programming, CNC routers and lasers and etc. Okay, I've seen it all, I've done it all, and I'm telling you, with the advent of AI today and all of the emphasis on technology, it's become a lost art of actually doing things with your hands. That's why people gravitate, particularly young people now, to videos of where old guys like me, that are actually making things with their hands, and they're fascinated by it. So whatever you have to do, whatever you feel led or inspired to do, like Tom said in the video, just do it. If you have any questions or comments specifically about leather making, put them in the comments there, and I'm sure he's more than willing to be able to answer your questions for you. And as always, I say like and subscribe so you can see more of these videos to come, because I'm planning on doing a lot more. Okay? God bless till next time.